They say that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Well, if that woman's pregnant, it may be double fury. There's a cruise line out there being called discriminatory because they wouldn't let a prego lady cruise. Also, we've got a government saying that people should not get to see polar bears. And I almost saw a fight. I almost saw a fight kick off in a cruise casino. Cruise news and my views. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I am your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news and views for your face on Monday, the 19th of February, 2024. Here we are, another week, everybody. Just back from Port Canaveral, just back from the Carnival Vista. That was an interesting 40-hour, 2-day cruise. Yeah, I got more to say, but not in this video. But we're going to talk some cruise news. Cruise news story number one, an interesting story coming from Australia, where we have a pregnant lady that was denied boarding on her Carnival cruise. And well, she's claiming discrimination. This Australian woman was trying to board the Carnival Luminosa in Brisbane for a birthday cruise. And of course, when she showed up to the cruise port, she showed up with a doctor's note. Doctor said it was okay for her to cruise. And when the cruise line inquired as to how pregnant this lady was, she let them know that she was 26 weeks pregnant. And well, that's where the trouble began. It's a rule on Carnival Cruise Line and on many other cruise lines that you cannot cruise if you are in your 24th week or later of your pregnancy. And she was informed that, and she was told she would not be able to cruise. And then, adding insult to injury, she was also told that not only would she not be able to cruise, but that she would not get any of her money back that she paid for her cruise. Of course, she's upset. She's claiming discrimination. And well, it's right there in the cruise contract. It says very plainly in the policies of the cruise line that if you are 24 weeks or more pregnant, that you cannot cruise, regardless of your doctor's note or your desire to cruise. I don't know. It sucks that she did not read the cruise contract. It sucks that she did not see the policy. It sucks that she did not see anything on YouTube saying don't cruise pregnant if you're 24 weeks or more. And now she's out the money. I guess that's the contentious part. I don't think the cruise line's discriminating against this woman. It's a very clear policy. There are sound safety reasons behind the policy. They don't necessarily have the facilities to take care of a premature baby if a baby was born prematurely. Obviously, it's the lady's fault for not knowing the policy. But should the cruise lines be so hardcore? And it's a business, right? So should the business be penalized because somebody did not follow the policy? Or should they say, look, we're not going to render the service that we promised. Maybe we should give the money back. But the problem is, at the time where it becomes obvious that this person can't cruise, that's embarkation day. You're not going to be able to fill that cabin. Who eats the cost? The person that made the mistake? Or should the cruise line eat the cost? I mean, yeah, obviously from the cruise line's perspective, they're like, it's not our fault that this lady didn't follow the policy. We're keeping the money. But then you can also, from a personal side, you can feel like, okay, people make mistakes. Should this lady be penalized for not knowing the pregnant rule? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the cruise line should put a big flash on your screen while you're booking saying, hey, if you're pregnant and you're going to be past 24 weeks, you can't cruise? Or, should it be that extreme? Or do you think that the policies the way they are accessible enough? Also, this is a good reminder that you might want to use a travel consultant, a travel agent, because most of them will be asking you questions like, is there any concerns with pregnancy? That kind of thing. That's why you use the free service of the travel agent. You could use my wife. She's an awesome travel agent. If you would like to book your travel with the lovely Jenny B, send an email to jbarnett@expediacruises.com. I did not clear this with her, and so now if she gets a lot of work in her email, I might be in trouble when I get home. But very rarely do I she doesn't seem that busy at home. That's what I'm saying. I'm just kidding. She's very busy. But if you do want help with your travel, jbarnett@expediacruises.com. Remember, Jenny, I'm getting surgery later this week, so, I'm not in my right frame of mind. Be nice to me. Okay, cruise news story number 2, and this involves Royal Caribbean's Ultimate World Cruise, that 9-month world cruise that we've seen so much talk talk about. It's finally come to the point where the 9-month World Cruise has had to make a decision in regards to whether or not it would continue its itineraries into the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, missile attacks, and well, they've decided they're not going to go there. But in an interesting twist, they decided to let the people on board vote on a new itinerary. The cruisers were given two choices. One was a very African intensive itinerary. And then there was a second one that had a couple port stops in Africa, but also some port stops in Greece and in Turkey, and then more sea days than the other one. I'm not sure how they voted yet, but I do think it is neat that they're empowering the people that are obviously so invested in this cruise to make a decision instead of just changing the itinerary and seeing the chips fall where they may. Maybe they've been reading the news lately because we've, famously followed Norwegian Cruise Line, who made a full itinerary change to people that thought they were going to Antarctica, only to find out that they weren't once they got on the cruise ship with no recourse. And there's been a lot of negative press coming off of that Norwegian cruise. So maybe Royal said, well, how about we empower the people? We give the people a vote. I don't know which one they're going to do. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer a more stops in Africa intensive itinerary, or would you like a couple stops in Africa, some Greece, some Turkey, sea days? I don't know, but it sounds like everything's going okay. Leave a comment below. Cruise news story number 3, kind of a piggyback to cruise news story number 2. We're getting word from Crystal Cruise Lines that they're making adjustments to their cruising schedule because of turmoil in the Red Sea. We have one cancellation, Crystal Symphony, March the 27th to April the 13th, completely canceling that cruise. And then they're also doing a world cruise right now. And so they will be rerouting several segments to avoid this area. Goes to show you, and we've talked about it pretty extensively over the last few months, the turmoil in different pockets around the world impacting cruising. Of course, the goal to keep passengers safe and to keep people out of harm's way. But it sheds a light. It kind of shines a light on cruising that sometimes, even though you may book a cruise a couple years out, you do not necessarily get what you pay for in the fact of the itinerary may change. And so a lot of people going through that right now. A lot of people may not have thought about that when they booked. And so you see a lot of these pains of people going, well, I thought I was going to go here, but now I'm not going there. And this isn't really what I paid for. I lay it out there because that is part of that cruise experience. Cruise lines, with all best intentions, try to keep the itineraries that they have set and sold. However, things out of their control change, weather, war, those kind of things, and itineraries change. But we've got a couple other cruise ships skipping the Red Sea. How about that? Cruise news story number 5, a story about a cruise line coming out of dry dock. The Norwegian Joy went in for refurbishment early in 2024. She is coming back into service in Southampton. This is one of Norwegian Cruise Line's larger cruise ships. They've added 24 new staterooms. They've expanded the Vibe and Beach Club. They've added a new thermal suite. They've also upgraded some of the suites in the Haven. The ship came back into service on February the 13th. She's currently doing 10 days sea day only transatlantic to Miami. Once she gets to Miami, she's going to do a few cruises in the Caribbean. Eventually in the summer, she will reposition to New York City to do cruises to Bermuda. I've got fond memories of the Joy. I've been on that cruise ship. That was my first Norwegian cruise ship. Have you ever been on the Joy? Are you looking forward to the new upgrades? Leave a comment below. Now, I got to tell you about which government is kind of shutting off some access to polar bears. And I got to tell you about this fight that almost kicked off in the Carnival Vista casino. But before I do that, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these. Do you love cruising? Well, this is the spot for you. Clicky that subscribe button, notification bell, stay in the loop. A big thank you in advance. Well, Norway is a popular spot for cruise ships, and the top of Norway kind of reaches into that Arctic Circle. And currently there are a bunch of places where you can go in that Arctic Circle to see Arctic type wildlife, including polar bears. Polar bears drinking Coca-Cola. Don't ever go looking for a polar bear to be drinking. Do you know polar bears are like one of the only bears that they just eat you? That's I mean, I think it'd be cool to see a polar bear in the wild, but not super close. Did you ever see that video of the guy that got in like a plexiglass tube and set out in the Arctic and then a polar bear tried to eat through it? Terrifying. Go look that up. Terrifying. But look, people like to go to Antarctica. They like to go to the Arctic. They like to see the wildlife and polar bears. Norway said, look, we don't want people looking at the wildlife. They're taking the 240 tourist locations that people have been able to enjoy in Norway, and they're reducing it down to just 43 locations. And so this will impact cruise ships because that's going to be a drastic decrease in the amount of places where they can stop. These new protections are outlined in the Svalbard Environmental Protection Act that's just been laid out by the Norwegian Parliament. Not only are they reducing the locations where tourists can visit from 240 to 43, but they're also going to limit the amount of passengers that can get off and visit these little spots at one time, reducing that from 200 cruise passengers to just 39 cruise passengers. Interesting, all in an attempt to protect the wildlife, which is a noble cause, but it does probably will put a dent in that Norwegian tourism. Have you ever been to the Arctic Circle? Have you ever seen a polar bear in its natural habitat? What do you think about this? Leave a comment below. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my experience on the Carnival Vista. This was a wild cruise. So the Carnival Vista just came out of dry dock over in Cadiz, Spain. She crossed the Atlantic Ocean and made her way to Port Canaveral in Florida. And because of delays getting out of Cadiz or weather issues, they were a day late. And so this cruise has been on the books for a while, a 3-day cruise from Port Canaveral to Nassau, Bahamas and back. And about Wednesday of last week, cruisers were notified that their 3-day cruise was now going to become a 2-day cruise. And well, that's where opportunity knocked for me. After I reported that story, I asked my travel agent wife, the lovely Jenny B, to see if there were any spots in the cruise. There was, and then I popped over, and it was wild. It reminded me there's a few cruises that unless you're ready for some challenges to not book, and a cruise coming out of dry dock is certainly one, and then also a cruise that's been altered is another, and both of those things played true. Interestingly, a lot of people apparently canceled that cruise, and in that cancellation fever, I met a lot of people on the cruise ship that got last minute casino offers. I met a guy that cruised for $40 in like an upgraded balcony, plus he got, casino credit, and he got the offer just almost the same day that it was announced that that cruise had gone from 3 days to 2 days. And so the casino was packed out with people that got these last minute cruise offers, and they were there to gamble. And it was a wild scene. I went there. There's only 2 nights. I went there on Friday night. I found a slot machine just to kind of ease my way into that casino action. And then as I was sitting there playing my slot machine, a whole bunch of ruckus happened behind me. There was a guy, there's 2 kinds of people that are fun to run into on a cruise ship. Number one is the person that's ready to pop off for any reason. There was several people on there ready to pop off for any reason. And then the other person is the person that thinks that they own the cruise ship. Like maybe they've been on the cruise ship 3-4 times. Maybe they got like a high status, loyalty status, and therefore they think they own the cruise ship. And so when you get a convergence of the ready to pop off person and the person that thinks they own the cruise ship, it was interesting. So I'm playing my slot machine, minding my own business, when I hear a guy beside me say, "Hey, baby, why don't you sit down here?" And as the lady was getting ready to sit down, I heard another lady say, "My husband is playing that machine." And the guy said, "Well, there's no card in the machine. It doesn't look like the machine is being played. What are you talking about?" And the lady responded, "Well, my husband just went to the bathroom. He will be right back." And the guy said, "Well, okay. I've been on this ship many times before. This is the slot machine that I play every time. This slot machine almost should have my name on it. I play it so frequently. And, just so you know, you're not supposed to save slot machines. You're not supposed to save anything in the casino." And well, that's all it took. The lady who was ready to pop off, she just comes back casually with, "I'm not sure why everybody is trying to tell me the rules on the cruise ship. Excuse me, sir, do you work for the cruise line? Are you a manager manager here in the casino. Why are you trying to explain to me what the slot saving rules are? And the guy was like, no problem. We can go talk to whatever the name of the casino. Like, he dropped the casino manager's name. Again, it was just a weird, interesting interaction. It finally calmed down because the lady's husband did show up. Apparently he was just in the bathroom. He showed up during the confrontation, took his seat at the slot machine, and the guy just stood back, you know, and murmured. He gave slot commentary. Like, it was the weirdest thing. Maybe he had played these slot machines a lot, because while, you know, I was playing, you could tell he was like, oh, look, the guy got like 3 in a row. I think the jackpot's going to hit. And then he was commenting about other people's slot machines. And the lady continued to murmur to her husband, like, you know, this guy ain't the one to be telling us, you know, how to save slot machines. Who does he think he is? He owns the cruise ship. She was saying it loud enough so the guy would hear her, but then the guy, I think he didn't want to be a part of the confrontation, but he was like, you know, I will go get the manager. So I don't know. It's that cruise life. There's interesting dynamics in the cruise life. And then when you get these different personalities, it gets even more interesting. But it raises an interesting question for sure. What's the rules for saving a slot machine? Can you call a slot? Can you put dibs on a slot machine? Me personally, I think, you know, I wouldn't even ask. I would just sit down and play. If nobody's at the slot machine and there's no card in the slot machine, I think you could play. I think it's open, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe a fight ensues. What do you think? And leave a comment below. Hey, guess what? That's your cruise news. That's your cruise news for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, you can show your support by hitting that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me. There will be a recommended video that pops up on the end screen. YouTube thinks you would love that, and I think you would too. So check that out. This is Tony for La Lido Loca. Until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye. Cruise news.